Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. It's Fountain Pen Showdown Day. We're going to take a look at two pens that look very, very similar. In fact, I think one is a very heavily inspired Chinese copy of the original. So the Chinese copy, this is the Wing Sung 699. This version is actually a piston filler. You can get it in a vacuum filling version as well. And I'm going to compare that against the Pilot Custom 823. My most expensive pen, got a gold nib. I bought the 699 first, really to see how I'd like the body shape. Really enjoyed it, that's why I got the 823. So join me now, down on the mat. We'll take a look at the pens, we'll walk through the body, do a size comparison, weights and measures, we'll do a writing sample, then I'll give you my thoughts and some scores for these pens. Here we are down on the table. So the two pens, the Wing Sung 699, this is in the blue colour, that's at the bottom. And then the other pen, this is the Pilot Custom 823. Let's start by taking a walk through the bodies. What I'm going to focus on here is more where there are differences. The pens are very, very similar. So size-wise, shape-wise, the same. Obviously the colours are different. The Wing Sung 699, this one is a piston filler. You can just about see the piston mechanism through there, and it takes up about half the barrel. The Pilot Custom 823, this one is a vacuum filler. You can see there the bar running down. And to fill it, you would pull up the bar and then push it down slowly with it dipped in the ink, creating a vacuum that when it gets near the bottom releases and sucks ink into the pen. Caps. Very, very similar shapes. We've got an end, then we come down to this wide bar going around, which is attached to the clip. The clips, yes, they are different, if I can avoid hitting it. So we've got a little logo here, then we come down, and we've got a fairly standard type shape there with that nib. Whereas on the 823, we're tapering in very, very quickly. We've got the word Pilot at the top, then we've got the ball down at the bottom. Very springy. The 823, a little bit on the stiff side. I don't use the clips, so that doesn't really bother me too much. As we come down the caps, let's just turn these around to the side. They both taper out slightly, both very similar shape. We've got a single thin band going around, then we've got a wide band. On the Wing Sung, we've got the word Wing Sung. There's 699 and made in China. On the Pilot Custom 823, we've got Custom 823, which is aligned underneath the clip. I like that. It's attention to detail. Got some stars, and we've got Pilot and made in Japan. And then some stars again. We've got a little bit longer piece of resin at the bottom of the cap on the 699. We'd still have some of that there on the Custom 823, but it seems to be longer on the 699. We come down into the barrel. Barrel looks the same on both of them. Coming all the way down, we've got another gold band. Then we've got the blind caps. So on the 823, I can move this one. So this is closed. So what that's done is that's closed this valve down here. Hopefully you can see this through. Let me lift it up ever so slightly. See if I can get into focus. Then I'm going to slowly unwind. And you can see there that plunger coming up, and that's freeing that block between the section and the body. So that means when that's down, that's blocking ink flow going from the body into the section. Makes it a bit easier if you're doing them long flights. The 699, the vacuum version of the 699 is the same. Works exactly the same. The piston version, obviously different because this is a piston filler. Not going to work this mechanism because I don't want to expel the ink. Let's take off the caps. So with the 699, half, 1, 1.5, 2, about 2.5 turns to take the cap off. That reveals the steel nib. On the Custom 823, we go half, 1, 1.5, about 1 3/4 turns. So 3/4 of a turn less. That reveals this 14 karat gold nib. Let's take a closer look at the nibs. With the 699, this is a two-tone nib. It's a steel nib. So primarily it's a gold colour, then we've got a bit of that steel, that metal colour coming through. I do like the decorative border on here. I like two-tone nibs. Then in the middle, just below the breather hole, we've got a logo. Below that we've got wing and then S, and then below that M. This is a medium nib. With a custom 823, 14 karat gold nib. Looks very nice. It's gold coloured, it's a gold nib. We've got a nice decorative border. As I say, I like decorative borders. Below the breather hole, we've got Pilot, Japan. Number 15, this is a Pilot number 15 sized nib. And then below that, we've got B for broad. You can also, if you can just about make it out, on the bottom of the nib, there are some numbers which help you to know when the actual nib was made. Let's swap on over and we'll do some size comparisons. My first two size comparisons, my standards, Pilot Metropolitan, Lamy Safari. Both the 699 and the 823 are a lot bigger when we've got the caps on. Let's take the caps off. Here they are unposted. I've lined the pens up so the bottom of the nibs are all in alignment. Again, the 699 and the 823, a little bit longer. We expect that. In the hand, the 699 is a good size. Section, yeah, maybe a teeny bit on the thin side, but it's more than usable. It's nice and comfortable. Fairly light feeling pen, very nice to hold, very nice to write with. Will it post? Yes, it will. Posts nicely. I don't use it posted because I tend to find it feels too long, but unposted, more than usable. With the Custom 823, the section on this feels a bit on the thicker side to me. It's nice, quite enjoyable. Nice size again, fits really well in my hand. Again, this one will post. I think this posts better. It seems to post deeper. But unposted, again, this is how I tend to use this pen. I like it unposted. Let's swap on over and look at some pens in roughly the same price range. This is where we start to see a difference. The pens I've brought in a Fully Wen 017. That was 38 Aussie dollars. The Wingsung 69, 38 Aussie dollars. The Pilot Custom 823, 521 Aussie dollars. So I should have done the maths before. So 10 of the other ones will be 380. That leaves about another 200. So you can get nearly 15, I would say, or roughly 15 699s for the price of that 823. The other pen I've brought in, the other comparison, this is a Waterman Karen. This is an 18 karat gold nibbed pen, but this one's 500 Aussie dollars. Big price difference. Need to be aware of that. 699, I'm going to say it's heavily inspired by because this one's a piston version. But to be honest, if you looked at the vacuum version, if it wasn't for the fact of the nib, they look virtually identical. Let's pop the caps on these. Here we are with the caps on. A little bit squashed because most of them they're fairly wide pens, but again, the 699823, they're on the long side. Let's swap on over and we'll do some weights and measures. Here we've got the rule of measuring. We'll start with the 699. So with the cap on, this comes in at 15 centimetres. Unposted, we're looking at 13.2 centimetres. Posted, that's 17.2 centimetres. The width of the body at its widest part, which is about here, that's 1.28 centimetres. The cap, 1.49 centimetres. The section goes from 1.06 up to 1.14. That was the 699. The Pilot Custom 823. Let's fetch that in. So unposted, 14.8 centimetres, ever so slightly shorter. Let me just line my rule up a bit. I think I've knocked it off. Unposted, oh, there we go. Let's get that there. That comes in at 13.07. So again, ever so slightly shorter. Posted, we come in now, oops, let me get it lined up, at 16.3 centimetres. So definitely noticeably shorter, about a centimetre shorter. The width of the body, that comes in at 1.25, so more or less the same. The width of the cap, that comes in at 1.49, so that is the same. The section, that comes in from the narrowest part of 1.06, and that goes up to 1.13. So surprisingly, the widths of the section are the same, but when I hold them in my hand, the 823 does feel wider. Bit weird that. Let's get this out of the way and we'll fetch in the scales of weighing. Here's the scales of weighing. We'll start with the 699. So 23 grams for the full pen. Remember, we do have a bit of ink in here. 12 grams for the body. 10 grams there for the cap. With the 823, again, remember we've got ink in here. 30 grams, heavier pen. 20 grams for the body. 10 grams for the cap. So the cap's on both roughly the same weight. The body's, the 823, is a heavier pen. Let's swap on over and we'll fetch in the notepad of testing. Just dropping in to interrupt your regular programming. Would you like to help support the channel? If so, please consider joining as a member. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos. I normally upload them a couple of days before they go out, and as soon as they're uploaded, they'll be released to members. There'll also be a shout out at the end of the videos, and then as we get the members coming in, we'll actually chat among ourselves and work out what other perks, what other things you'd like me to add in. You know, would you like maybe a monthly live chat just for members? All down to us. So please, if you can, consider joining the channel. A link will be in the description down below. Here's the notepad of testing. This is Oxford Optic paper, nice fountain pen friendly paper. First pen we'll use is the Wingsung 699. As I say, I use this unposted. So we've got here a Wingsung 699 with a medium nib. Price wise, 38 Aussie dollars. The ink is by Ancient Song. This is another Chinese maker. And it's called Seaview. Lovely, gorgeous blue ink this. Drying times, so we go immediate. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Seems to be wetter there at 30 than it was at 10. 1 minute. After a minute there, yeah, we're nice and dry. Line variation. So here's no pressure. Here's with some pressure. Nib fairly stiff, not seeing much of a difference. So none with, none with, none with. Get maybe a slightly wider line, but that's about it. Going to move the mic down to the page so you can hear the pen writing. Stiff nib, enjoyable to write with though. Get a nice line, nice consistent line. I've not had any issues with hard start, skipping or anything. I do like this colour. I do like, we're seeing some shading coming through there. Final test, my flow test. And then we'll switch direction. That keeps going and going. Not had any flow issues with this pen. I have had another 699, which was the vacuum version. That one, again, the nib was beautiful, but the pen itself, I don't know what it was. It just fell apart on me. It was not a very well-made pen. This one, had this nearly 2 years now, had no issues with it. Next up, Pilot Custom 823. There we go, this beautiful brown colour. Just move the page up slightly. That'll help with the writing. So we've got here a Pilot Custom 823. It's 14 karat gold and it's broad. As I say, we're paying for this $521 when I priced it up about a week ago. The ink by Diamine and it's Tobacco Sunburst. I know really from comparing these, I should try and use the same ink, but I find that it gets boring because if I'm using the same one all the time, it just really, I don't find it interesting. I like to use different inks. I love this Tobacco Sunburst in here. This is an ink at the moment, whenever I'm inking this up, I'm tending to reach for Tobacco Sunburst. Drying times, so we got immediate. 10 seconds. Still fairly wet after 10 seconds. 30 seconds. 1 minute. Still fairly wet there after a minute. I'm going to do a 2-minute test. I'll just go up here on the line above. 2 minutes, that's nice and dry. Let's look for line variation. So here's no pressure. Now I'm going to add some pressure. Here we do see a wider line. The nib does feel a little bit softer. So no pressure, with, none, with, none, with. When you're doing this, if you ever do this, do not put too much pressure on. It's easy to damage the nib. So when I'm putting pressure on, I'm not adding that much. Let's move the mic down to the page so you can hear the pen write. The additional backing track you heard there is the dog over on her bed, having a nap and snoring away. Writing my sentence, really nice. The nib, it's not the softest gold nib I've got. It's the softest, the nicest one that I really enjoy is the Pilot Custom Heritage 92. But it's nice. It's got a nice bounce to it. There's a nice softness to it. Definitely very different feeling than when I'm using the 699. This ink, we get loads of shading coming through. I love using this combo. I think it's really nice. Let's do the final test. Yeah, lovely, nice, smooth, lovely feedback. Love the way this feels. So what are my thoughts and my scores for these pens? Let's start with pen looks. We'll be honest, they both look very similar, don't they? Similar shape. Yes, I know the colouring's different. As I said, in the past I did have the vacuum version of the 699, and when I put that up against the 823, in terms of colouring, shape, they looked virtually identical. It's only when you looked at the details like the band here and the clip, that's where you would see differences. So the 699, as I say, I'm going to say very heavily inspired by, I don't like calling things clones, but to be honest, to me, it's as near as a clone as I've seen. But pen looks, really like them both. Both got to get 8 out of 10. For build quality, we're starting to see a little bit of a difference here. I've already mentioned I previously had the vacuum version of the 699, had major issues with it. It just was really felt poor quality. This, it does feel flimsy in some ways. It feels quite solid though in others. The 823, to be honest, as you expect, I mean, this is a quality pen. You're paying a quality price for it. Good quality, very good build quality. So for build quality, 7 out of 10 for the 699, 8 out of the 10 for the custom 823. Writing experience, well, we're seeing here, both of them write really well. I'm going to fetch in my Tomoe River notebook. This is 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. So we'll start with a 699. You know, nice comfortable pen, nice amount of feedback. The nib, yes, it's got that stiffness to it, has some tactileness to it. Consistent line, no flow issues. I enjoy the ink. I like this ink colour. I'm into pale blues at the moment, all these like turquoisey colours. Very nice. You know, not a lot of line variation again, as we see down at the bottom here. If I turn on over for the Pilot Custom 823, again, Diamine Tobacco Sunburst. Wow, can you believe it was what, about 13, 14 months ago when I actually did that writing sample for the 823. This is how much I like this combo, because I don't think I've changed the ink. Well, I've obviously put more ink in it, but I've kept the same ink in there. Love the shading. You know, every letter oozing character. It's nice, a nice bounce to it. It feels nice when I'm using it. It's one of those pens, it's always inked up, and it's one that if I'm reaching for a pen, if I see it, I'll grab it. I have had in here Robert Oster Cafe Crema. I think I might need to try that out again in here because I did like that as well. It's very similar colour tones though. So that's a Pilot Custom 823. So shift that back out of the way. So for writing experience, I'm going to give them both an 8 out of 10. They're both very nice. Ink flow, again, same comments for the both. No issues, consistent, nice line. My preference is broad nib, so I do like the broader line I see with the Pilot Custom 823, but that's a broad nib compared to the medium of the 699. So for ink flow, 8 out of 10. Comfort, both pens virtually identical in shape, in size. The 823 ever so slightly heavier, don't really notice that though when I'm writing. Comfort, 8 out of 10 for both of them. Value for money, so this is interesting. I'm judging value for money by comparing the pen against other pens of similar prices, not against each other. It would not be fair to compare them against each other because if we were to do so, the fact that you can get roughly 15, that's 1/5 of these, for the same price as an 823 means that the 699 by default would be winner in terms of value for money. But comparing it against other pens in the same price range, they're actually quite nice. They compare really well. I mean, $38 compares very well with the other pens in that price range. Hard to say really though with the 823. I mean, it's like $500. I've only got one pen which approaches that. So it's very hard to find proper comparisons for price-wise for that. But they're still both very nice. So value for money, what I'm going to do is give them both 8 out of 10 when comparing against other pens in the same price range. So that means the total scores for these pens, for the Wingsun 699 is 7.83 out of 10, and for the Pilot Custom 823, that comes out at 8 out of 10. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these pens? Have you got both of them or have you got just one of them? I'd love to know. Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.